Hi, everybody. My name is Samantha Lane, and I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at SE Shires. And today is our second virtual Facebook Live clinic where we're pairing some of our great Q Series instruments with our wonderful artists. Today is an instrument that's relatively newer to our catalog. It came out in the last year, and we're so thrilled with the reception that it's been getting, but we wanted to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to hear it for themselves and to get a chance to hear what it sounds like with a professional educator and musician playing on it. Professional, use air quotes here. So today we have Dr. Chris Van Hoff, who's the assistant professor of trombone at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. He's also the recent host of the 2019 International Trombone Festival, and he's now the assistant manager of ITF. He's also a frequent performer with the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra and is an active jazz and commercial and recording artist throughout Indiana, Ohio, and Southwest Michigan. So we're thrilled to have Dr. Chris Van Hoff with us today, and we're going to be featuring our Q Series Q33 tenor trombone. This is our 508 small bore trombone. It's a really killer little horn, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the specs and stuff. But Dr. Chris Van Hoff has graciously agreed to play for us, and as he mentioned it, get on his soapbox to talk a little bit about why small bore trombones aren't necessarily just for one very specific idiom. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Chris.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
Thanks for that introduction, Sam. There's the big asterisk of in the before times. I played the things that the gigs that you listed. Lately, there hasn't been much going on, but I think we'll get back eventually. And yeah, like you mentioned, I I hold this belief that I always say I was radicalized by my teacher at Eastman, Mark Kellogg, who is the former principal trombone of the Rochester Philharmonic, but also a really accomplished jazz player too. And Mark was the first person who planted this idea in my mind when I was doing my master's with him of like playing classical music on a small or medium bore instrument. I'd never really thought about that. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. The 547 is a relatively recent innovation in trombone land. What I was getting at is like the 547 is actually a relatively, historically speaking, kind of a new thing for us in the trombone land, and a lot of the music that we love was played on what we now consider to be smaller equipment. And for me, it comes down to not the style of the horn is not limited to the style. I don't think there's such a thing as a jazz horn or an orchestra horn. There are instruments that are the proper tool for the different jobs that we're called on to do, and I think this is particularly true for those of us who are freelancers who have to do lots of different things. But for me, it's all about the color that we're trying to achieve. And one thing that I found in getting to know this instrument, which is a 508 bore, is that it has a very kind of a sweet, very kind of a sweet, bright but in a good way color, and I like that a lot when I'm playing kind of lyrical classical music. So I thought what I would do is, Sam had asked me to choose some music to play, and I kind of wanted to show the variety of color that I find on this, and then also compare it a little bit to the bighorn on some music. So first, what I have here is this etude. It's from the Voxman selected studies, but the composer of the etude is Antoine Dieppe, who was this famous French trombonist in the kind of early to middle part of the 1800s. And he was basically the trombonist that inspired Berlioz to write for the trombone. It was Dieppe's ability and sound on the trombone that was inspirational to Hector Berlioz. And I wanted to play this because Dieppe wrote these. He was one of the first people to write etudes for the trombone in this kind of singing lyrical style. And he would have played on an instrument about this size, maybe even much smaller. Could have been less than a 500 bore. So I'll play through this and give you kind of an introductory idea of one of the reasons that I have enjoyed getting to know this Q33 a little bit. So here's this little etude by Antoine Dieppe in A good country key, by the way. Thank you. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of what I mean by that. And one thing I felt this as soon as I like kind of figured out the difference with resistance and how the horn felt compared to the other wonderful Shires products that I own and play on. Once I figured that out, I found that it's just for this kind of music, it requires like less effort. To play that etude just feels easy and comfortable. The response is really great, and I feel like as long as you just kind of put things where they need to be here and from here, then this really is just doing the job for me. I don't feel like I'm ever working against that instrument. So that was that. Sam, did you want me
Yeah, I
to
love it.
should I
No,
just
no,
keep
no.
going or?
I think that's so wonderful. Yeah, why don't you keep going? I know you said you
Okay.
had a couple different styles of things you wanted to
Yeah.
play through.
So uh, I got real political on Facebook recently and was preaching about the ability to play an instrument like this in the orchestra and the ability to play swung eighth notes on an instrument with an F attachment that's allowed. You can do that. Um, and so what I thought would be kind of cool to do, and I think it'll work on my little microphone over here, is to compare the color of a real standard orchestral excerpt that I think would work really well on this instrument compared to what it would sound like on the bighorn. So I thought I would just play the solo from Bolero on both instruments. And which one? What do you think, Sam? What do you think? Which one should I do first? I don't really know. Maybe
Um,
why don't I play it
your
on the big one because that's what
I
we're
was gonna
used to
say
hearing.
that would be great as long as your chops don't mind all the switching.
Sure. No, that's fine.
Okay.
So this is my absolutely beloved Shires Chicago model with the dual bore rotor on it. And I've had this for a long time. I should play in tune. I love this horn. Um, so okay, I'll play Bolero on this, and then I'm just going to go right to the other one. You can
Super.
hopefully at home you'll be able to hear kind of the difference in color between these two instruments. Okay, so that's on the big horn, and then on the 508. So
It
that's
really
that.
is interesting.
Could
It's
you hear
super
that?
interesting.
I,
Yeah.
I don't know. Did that come
Yeah,
through?
yeah, yeah. And how does it feel for you as a player on your end too?
Well, it's funny because for my whole life, like practicing orchestral excerpts and learning this music, that piece in particular, I've only ever done it on the bighorn. But again, like I
Right.
mentioned earlier, my teacher from Eastman, Mark Kellogg, said he would always play it on his Con 6H, and so that kind of planted that seed in my brain. And playing it on this, it's funny. It's like I was saying earlier. It's a little bit it still is kind of new for me, but it because I'm used to playing it on the other horn. But I feel like it's the challenge is that I'm overblowing on this one because I have to actually work less
That's
on this
interesting.
instrument than on the other. And I do kind of again, thinking about like historically, the trombone player who Ravel was familiar with and writing for probably was not playing on a 547. He was, or she was probably playing on a slightly smaller instrument. So I feel like that's kind of more the color that he maybe had in
Right.
had in mind. And then especially for that piece, like, man, you got to play that solo another 2.5, 3 more times, including in octaves with the freaking piccolo trumpet, which is a whatever. And then at the end, it goes up even higher. So, like, if this is on a pops concert or something, like maybe you don't want to work quite so hard to play music like that. Maybe you want to use something like this. So, anyway, yeah, that's kind of an idea of like the kind of like how I might approach symphonic music on this instrument. Um, and I also just want to give a quick shout out to my friend, talking about this equipment switching thing in the
Yeah.
orchestra, to my friend Blake Schlabach, who's the acting principal in the Indianapolis Symphony. I played I think I played 8 Empire Strikes Backs with him with the film score. I was playing second and he was playing principal, and he played it all on a 508.
Wow, that's
And
wild.
it sounded incredible. And it's
That
because
really
he
is
had
wild.
he knew how to make that horn work. And he was like, "Man, there's no way I'm gonna." He did it without an assistant, and that's some heavy lifting on that film score. And he's like, "I don't need to work that hard." So, um, anyway, I have 2 other little kind of shorter
Yeah, that would
things
be
to play here.
wonderful.
So these are like kind of one is an example of like some lead playing that I might do on this horn, and then the other is an example of something Latin. So, why don't I do I'll do this lead thing first. This is real short. Um, and this is engaging in shameless self-promotion. This is an arrangement of mine that I wrote. That's for 6 trombones, of a blues by Sonny Rollins called Blues 7. You won't hear the melody, but this is like coming out of the last solo into the kind of the shout chorus. So, and this kind of gives you an idea of like what it's like to if you light this thing up a little bit. I have a smaller mouthpiece now. I had a 5G in a 5GS. Now I have a 7C. So, okay, I'll play this. It's about a chorus and 2/3 of blues here.
Nice, man.
So
It sounds great.
it's fun, like just like I
Yeah,
said, just light it right up.
it's great.
I
There's
like
there's
it.
still a lot of nuance though in the sound. Like there's quite a bit of stuff going on. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's great because like you can get edgy on it and it'll cut, but it's not like a laser beam. It's not painful
Yeah.
playing. So okay, and I have one more if you want.
Yeah, please. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
totally.
this is you all at Shires were kind enough to share this little video that I made, but this is music that I just is so near and dear to my heart. I love salsa music and Latin music. And this is a tune called America Latina, which is played by this band called Rumba Jam in Costa Rica, which has some really fantastic musicians in it. So this is kind of like one of the little horn solis in it. So I'll play a little bit of this. There you go.
So much fun.
Slightly fatigued. The what I noticed on this one is these little turns on here. It's like specifically about this horn, and like the kind of the ease of operation on it. The way that this thing slots is really great. There's these turns up in here. That just sits really. It's so easy to find those notes, and in that part of the horn, us trombone players know that's like the partials are real close together, but this instrument just slots really really well. Like I'm not tonguing any of that. It's all natural slurs, and that can be hard. But this
Right.
again, it slots great, and it feels really good on this
Wow.
particular instrument.
No, that's so great, man. And it really is so interesting to get to hear such a nice array of playing styles on yet the same instrument. And the only other change that you're making is a mouthpiece change,
Hmm.
going a little bit smaller. Yeah,
Yeah, and I
crazy.
I know it's got. Am I right that this only comes with one lead pipe when you buy it?
Yeah, but it is still compatible with the rest of the lead pipes and stuff.
Right.
So if
So
there's a specific like custom series and you want a half size or something like that,
yeah,
then I would do that.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
I have most of my like small instrument playing is on a 525 Shires, and on that one I'll change the lead pipes out too, and that
Yeah,
makes a
sure.
big difference too, which is a cool thing again with the Q series is you can get the custom parts to plug in.
Yeah, on the trombones, the fact that it's compatible with the rest of the custom series and everything is still modular, it's an amazing value that's kind of built into the instrument for sure. And I'm happy to say we designed it that way on purpose. So that part was nice. It's worked out really well. So yeah, Chris, I mean, like, it would be really wonderful to hear a little bit from you. Obviously, you teach in a very large way, and you have a lot of really fantastic students at the college age and beyond, and maybe even some younger. But like when you received the horn and we sent it out to you for some testing and stuff, like what were some of your initial impressions when you got it?
Yeah, well, the 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 first thing like right out of the box that I noticed when I first played it was well, I mean, like, I know this sounds lame, but like it's high, it's quality build. You know, there isn't like there isn't like little abrasions here at the joints and things like that. Like it looks good and it feels good. And this is a problem that I have a lot of times too with some smaller horns is like the reach here can be uncomfortable, but it's
Sure.
just it sits well, it's ergonomic, it's well built. I could tell that right away. Um, and then just playing it, the first thing that I found, and I'm sure a lot of us do this when we're testing out horns, is for the feel is like what does the response feel like, and what does it feel like slotting across the partials, and that's the first thing that I do is just play some lip slurs and play some scales, and that right away it just felt comfortable. So like I said, I don't usually play on an instrument this small. The smallest I generally go, well, aside from my alto, the smallest I go is a 525 for. So this 508 I was a little bit kind of like I'm going to feel kind of hemmed in, but I did not. And for for it's still I will say I'm like 525 for life. That's my preference, but that's for me. Now I know that not everybody would like that horn. So for the 508, this one just it doesn't feel stuffy. It felt just immediately like comfortable, and I mean not so much with the 7C, but when I have the larger mouthpiece on, like the low register sounds good, feels nice. So
Right.
that the initial thought on it was just like comparing it to teaching. It's like when a student brings something in and like everything we've talked about they've done, and then the only thing you can say is yeah, that's how it's supposed to go. yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it should sound
nice.
like that. So you play this instrument, it's like, oh yeah, that's what a really good like small bore horn, that's what it should feel like. It should do just that and feel that way.
That's awesome. So we were talking too a little bit about, I mean, it's a versatile horn and it exists in a lot of different arenas for players, whether it's as, small bore horn for a jazz style playing, or like you were demonstrating using it in a larger sense, in like an orchestral sense. For students or even professionals who do doubling, like what is your approach as a professional musician to tackling two different horns? And going back and forth between, how do you wrap your head around that? How do you practice for that?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is, well, first of all, every single day my day starts and ends on Old Faithful back behind me. So that's my primary instrument. That's where I do the vast majority of my playing, and so I start and end every day on the bighorn. Um, Even if, like, if I had just performed on this, I'll still unpack the bighorn and do a bit of a warm down at the end of the day for that.
Right.
Um, so for me, that's kind of it. Now, having said that, when I'm preparing for a situation where I'm going to be playing on this one a little more regularly, then I will just very simply um, do what I did to start out today. I'll just play some easy etudes and kind of notated music that I really like, and that gets me a little bit kind of back in the saddle with familiar with where the pitch is on this particular horn that's different from my everyday driver. Um, Gets me an idea of kind of the balance that I need, but with the resistance of the horn and the air I need to deliver and things like that. So if I'm going to be playing on the instrument more, then I'll just do some kind of regular etudes, arbins, that kind of practicing on it. Now, in terms of like doing this on a regular basis and kind of figuring out initially how to do it, I think the best thing to do is to keep in mind this piece of advice that I got from John Fedshock, really great trombone player and big band writer, recording artist. And I asked him, like, how did he deal with this earlier in his career? Right now, he pretty much just plays straight ahead jazz, but earlier, he had to do recording sessions and all kinds of stuff. And I asked him how he deals with that, and he said, and what he told me, this is like how I live my life. It's, you have to be able to manipulate just two things, but you have to do it at a really high level. You have to be able to change your sound concept for the given style of music that you're playing, and change your articulation for the given style of music that you're playing. So if I sat and played, you know, quarter notes with the sound concept and style like this for like the light 'em up stuff, where my articulation is going to be a little more percussive, and I'm going to like hit things
Right.
and maybe even and stop the sound with my tongue. That does not work for playing tuba mirum. It's
Right.
totally,
Yeah, of
obviously
course.
totally the wrong articulation, the wrong sound concept. But on this instrument, if I think, okay, I'm going to play with a little bit more of like a classical vocal sound concept, and I'm going to make sure that my articulation matches that, then same equipment, but flipping that switch of changing my sound concept and my articulation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
At least
sense.
closer to where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So that's the biggest thing for me, and the only way you accomplish that is through massive amounts of consumption of recorded and live music. If you're a student and you're interested in playing um, jazz, you absolutely have to listen to that music a lot. If you want to know how to swing, you just listen to Atomic Basie with the Count Basie Orchestra. If you want to learn how to improvise, you listen to J.J. Johnson. If you want to learn how to like um, play contemporary music on jazz on the trombone, you listen to Robin Eubanks, who, by the way, plays on a 547. So there you go.
Yeah, it's
So
wild. Yeah.
yeah, so the only way that you can really master that idea of changing the articulation and the sound concept is first and foremost from extensive listening, and then from just sitting in the practice room and playing scales and playing along with records and things like that, which applies, sorry, I'm going on, this is the
No,
end of the
this is
thought,
great. No, this is perfect.
that applies to symphonic music too.
Yeah.
If you want to get the sound right to play Mahler's Fifth Symphony, and you're not listening to that music on good headphones or good speakers or live, and you're not playing along with great recordings, then you're not going to be able to match that when you get into the real world outside of school.
And so even in your own studio, I'm sure your students have an expectation that they're doing a fair amount of listening, um, outside of lessons and all of that. Yeah. You're smirking
Yes,
right now.
they're supposed they're supposed to do that. I hope they're watching.
I'm sure
Yeah,
they do.
no, they do. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And that's, when the conversation of style of things all comes up, this is always where we start.
Yeah.
Is, okay, well, that's cool that you like this, you want to play this solo. Tell me what 5 recordings of it you listened to. And if they're like, oh, well, I found Sally's senior recital on YouTube, well, you can got to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, and also, despite all of the negatives that COVID brings, what a great time to be able to focus on like building up your ear and doing a lot of listening and stuff. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. If you had designs of learning how to play like Hungarian brass band music, now's the time. There's no gigs. So
why not?
yeah,
Might as well.
might as
Might
well
as
learn
well.
how to double tongue like those dudes do. Holy cow.
Yeah. So do you find as like somebody who does a lot of doubling in your life, do you find that you gear up more towards specific like small bore playing if you really have a lot on your calendar? Do you keep it in the rotation pretty frequently? How do you balance?
Yeah, I'd say, like I said earlier, I think that if there's a lot of music coming up on the small horn, then like I said, I'll just work it into my fundamentals a little bit.
Okay.
So I might do my 20 minutes of um, Arbin's studies for dotted eighth and 16th on the small horn instead of on the big horn that day. Just so
Right.
I'm getting reminding myself of what it takes to get the response and the sound that I want on that particular instrument. But at this, a lot of that work really happened for me. I think when I was in school. At this point, for me, it's tapping into flipping those two switches in my mind, and if and I just try to challenge myself to think like, okay, is what's coming out the bell, does that match what I'm imagining? And if it's not, then do I need to change the tonguing or you know something like that. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
and this is like spoken not in any kind of egotistical way. It's just like this whole like focus and practicing on the horn is something that I spent a lot of time doing when I was younger, and now I feel like I have a little bit better access to just change that
Yeah.
style button in my mind.
But and like you just said, it's a practice skill too. And so the more that you start working on adding that to your vocabulary,
Yeah.
the easier it becomes over time. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And like I don't play bass trombone, but if I were to own a bass trombone and was called on to play it, then I would have to go into very serious study mode to make
Right.
sure that I was
Yeah, of
doing it
course.
right, because that's not something I have. So
Right, of
if I had to
course.
do that, or if I had to play euphonium, like I would, which again I haven't played euphonium in many years. I would have to go back and kind of do that kind of a deep dive in order to feel like I was going to do it justice on the gig.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And just because I'm curious too, so much of your playing and your passion is in music that's not necessarily just symphonic or not necessarily straight ahead jazz. You do a lot of Latin music, and where did that kind of passion come from? And is that not the most fun music to play on trombone?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. My love of salsa, I think, came kind of later in my life. And although I always was aware of music from Latin America, and I enjoyed, if like a big band chart came up in college and it said Latin, then I liked that. That was good, but I didn't know a lot about it. And then for various reasons, thanks in large part to our mutual friend Katie Hickey,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, she helped me build some relationships with some really outstanding trombone players in Central and South America, and that got me more interested in this music. And in particular, my good friend Venny Nunez, who is a Panamanian trombone player who plays in La Orquesta Roberto Delgado, which is basically the band that backs up Ruben Blades, who's one of the
Oh,
world's
wow.
top salsa musicians. Um, so because of that and getting to know Venny, I developed this real deep love for the music of Ruben Blades. And then the more you dig in, the more you realize that people like Barry Rogers and Willie Colon are like these titans of salsa, and they're trombone players, and the trombone is just this central sound in that kind of music. So as a trombone nerd, I love it, and as a person who speaks Spanish and likes cooking food from that part of the world, I also really enjoy it as well.
Yeah. And do you work that in with your students at all? Do you guys?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So right now I have a student who is she's past her, like, she's a junior, so she's done with her big like sophomore barrier jury that they all have to pass, and she is alternating weeks. One week we're working on orchestral excerpts, then the next week we're working on. Currently, she's working on learning by ear all the horn lines to the Stevie Wonder tune "Sir Duke," and
Oh, neat.
this solo from a band called Sonora Poseña, which is a Puerto Rican band. She's working on some salsa music. So every other week she's alternating back and forth
Neat.
between pop and Latin music and then symphonic music. And she's choosing to do classical on that, and then she's got a 508 that she plays the pop stuff on. But so
Very
yeah, I
cool.
do work on it with them, and I approach it like you've been saying, which I really appreciate it. I approach it as a double, even if it's the same instrument. I think of it as a double because I think it deserves that amount of attention.
Yeah.
Probably like how a great trumpet player would approach playing piccolo. It's a double. It's a unique instrument that requires like some specific focus.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you keep bringing it also back to mental focus, because so much of, you could mimic articulations like you just did in a couple different styles and you'll be able to achieve that. But really the mental shift is really what starts to help separate it
Yeah.
out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. So just to give everybody a little bit more info about this horn, the Q33, this was, I guess when we started the Q series project for trombone, we started with the Q30, which is the large bore tenor. That comes in the rotary valve and the axial. And we came out with a bass trombone version, the Q36. And at first that was just released with the rotor, but now we also have an axial version of that bass. And we're going to do another clinic coming up in a couple of weeks with another wonderful Shires artist, Dr. Martin McCain, on the Q bass, and that'll be a blast.
He's the cat. Martin's awesome.
He's the cat. He's pretty amazing. But yeah, the Q33 came out, I guess it was a year and a half, 2 years ago. It was kind of a soft launch. We announced it, I think it was just after the NAMM show, or just after ATW. It was like right just past one of those shows. But now that we've been able to get it out into the hands of some people, it's really starting to pick up some traction, and we're really, really thrilled with that. It's a 8-inch bell. It's built off some of our most popular like small bore horns in the custom series. So it's a 2-piece hand hammered bell, medium weight yellow brass, and it does have a soldered bead wire. So it has a lot of the same hallmarks that you'll hear from some of the custom series instruments, and we do that on purpose because we have an opinion of what Shires instruments should sound like, and it should be consistent between the Q series and the custom series. And then the slide is a 508 nickel lightweight, and it's again built after our 508 nickel lightweight hand slide in the custom series line.
Which I really like. That's what I have on that horn
on your
and on my
Chicago,
is the nickel lightweight, which I really like. I was happy that it had the nickel slide and not a yellow brass one.
So in your experience and stuff, how does a nickel slide feel to you compared to playing on a yellow brass slide? What are the benefits to you?
Well, the biggest thing for me is I think is ease of operation, because it is literally lighter. So for me, it's easier to navigate. I think especially when it's paired with a slightly larger bell, on a small instrument, an 8-inch bell, you could do a 7.5 or 7.75. So a little bit bigger bell, I think, works well with the, I don't know the science or alchemy behind it, but the nature of the lightweight nickel slide. Yeah. And again, this is and I swear I'm not trying to sound like a commercial, even though I do, but this is what's so great about Shires, is that like if the nickel slide on your custom horn isn't right for you, then there's other options too. But for me, it works really well, and I think on this horn it's the right universal combination for people. I think if it had a yellow slide, it would be a little too heavy, and it wouldn't kind of, like I've been praising the response and how it comes alive.
And nickel on a hand slide is one of those, like, we think of nickel and we think of response. It tends to give a little bit more quickness and a little bit more immediacy to the front end of the articulation. And actually, another word that you said earlier, percussive, like that tends to be a really nice attribute of a nickel slide. So Chris plays on his large bore, he plays our Chicago model, which is a killer horn. And that also features are you on the TB47 nickel lightweight?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So same idea, but like the tenor slide with the bass crook instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that, there was no other thought in our mind when designing the Q33. We wanted to have it be, a nice, robust small bore sound, so that it could kind of float between a lot of different playing styles. And then also that nickel lightweight slide for both the ease of playing and that immediacy of articulation. That was kind of a no-brainer to us. So.
Well, I mean, if we're honest, this instrument is mostly going to be played in commercial music. As much as I like to play classical, but it's mostly going to be for commercial stuff, which is totally fine. And what's nice is, like, this is very comfortable in a big band like first through third. You'd be fine. And
Yeah.
sometimes on things that are like 500 or even smaller, that can get a little bit not as comfortable for most people when we get like in the staff on lower parts. So this is easy up high, and it's easy down low. I think it was like you said, if you're going for like as universal a horn as possible, this just checks a lot of boxes.
That's definitely what we wanted. I'm glad you think so too.
Yeah.
That's good. Um, so yeah, any other observations on your end about this horn or any other thoughts? I know you have some students in the studio who have other Q series instruments.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know if
do.
anybody has the Q33 yet, but
No, nobody here does. But I have three students, yeah, who have the Q large bore tenors.
oh, nice, awesome.
Yep. Well, one actually just it's no longer a full Q. It's only
Oh,
partial
is
Q,
he?
because he actually bought a Chicago bell to put on his.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. That's
So
awesome.
he sounds great on it.
Yeah,
Um, and again, with especially with the big horns on this one, you can change components obviously, but the big horns, like so many things are interchangeable. It's really cool.
yeah,
And I do just want to point out that I love recommending those instruments because they play as well as any other, as well or better than any other factory instrument, this one included. Plays as well or better, but the price is somehow lower than a lot of others. So it's affordable, but I really, especially after living with this one for about a month or so, it's not a step up instrument. This is not a step up horn. This is the kind of instrument that a top, like a way better first call pro player than me could play on a daily basis. It's not a step up at all. It's a professional instrument, and it's one that this is one that I would easily, include in my arsenal. But I don't think my wife Andrea wants me to buy
I
more
was gonna
trombones.
say, I think we're pretty much maxed out there, but
Yeah, yeah. Talk to me after I get tenure.
yeah, right, right. No, I totally appreciate that, and we love to be able to see both like advancing students and also professionals finding their way in the Q series line. We're releasing, actually, it should be out maybe even later this month or early November, our Q alto trombone.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be coming out soon. On the trumpet side of things, we are releasing a Q piccolo trumpet and also E flat D. And I do have plans for a Q contrabass trombone later on down the road. So
Wow.
the idea is to have the Q series line be a really comprehensive line, so that musicians can find their primary or even secondary doubling instruments throughout the
Yeah.
whole line. So we're super, super thrilled for that to happen. And then the other benefit to it is that, our custom series instruments, they're incredible, and we love every single one that gets to find a new and happy home. But it does take quite a long time to build, and there is, a lot of demand for those. And so the wait times tend to be quite long. With the Q series, we can really plan in advance and know what our needs are. And so most dealers have Q series instruments in stock. And if it's something that they don't have readily available, it's something we can get out within just a few weeks. So it definitely brings Shires to a much more, I don't know, a all-inclusive kind of feel. So we can bring these like pro level horns, like Chris is saying, not necessarily just step ups. They're truly professional horns, to musicians all over the place, all over the globe, really.
Yeah.
So
If I may, the way I kind of think of it is like Ford and Lincoln. It's the same company, but like the Fords are awesome, and then the Lincolns are like have all that underpinning, but they're like nicer.
a
It's
little
like,
luxurious, yeah.
yeah, this is like the Lincoln, and then
Right.
and this is like the top of the line Ford.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Oh
that
yeah.
makes sense,
It's
but
that's your Ford Fusion. Yeah.
yeah,
Your little
they don't
Ford
make those
Fusion.
anymore. They don't make cars.
What?
They only make crossovers.
Oh, right. That's the new thing now. That's all people do. Yeah, the only other thing I'll say too is, for anybody who's interested in checking out the Q33, you can read more about it on our website, shires.com/TBQ33. And then you can also find it at your local Shires dealer. We have dealers all over the US, all over the globe. We have a new handy dandy dealer locator, which I'm very proud of. That's at shires.com/dealers. So you can pop in your zip code and see who's closest to you. But I know COVID is weird right now. But I definitely encourage everybody, if you're in a position where you can test out a Q33, to do so. And if we're able to get back to ITF and ATW and all of the other fun upcoming events that will hopefully be on the books for 2021, we'll be there with horns for people to test, assuming it's a safe environment to do so. But there are ways. We have really great opportunities for testing these instruments with our dealers. We talked about in the last episode, but we have something called the Studio Sampler Program that's available for universities and private teachers too. So if you have questions about that, you can reach out to us at through the website or info@shires.com. And it's a great gateway to testing out some Q series instruments. So, but man, Chris, thank you so much for being available to do this and putting the horn through its paces.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. I don't really know what you were thinking asking me to do it. When I see the other people who are gonna do
No,
Q
I
series
know.
instruments for you, but that's fine. I don't mind being in company with people like Martin and the others. So
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. I really liked doing it. It's as much as I talk about Shires, like I'm not a gear guy. Like I've owned three
yeah,
mouthpieces in my whole life. Like I don't really do this. So it
right.
was really fun to be real nerdy and picky about this horn. I enjoyed it a lot. Thanks.
Yeah, it means the world to me that you were willing to do it, because it's nice. You and I usually talk about other things, not really all that much equipment necessarily. It's usually something unrelated. So getting your feedback on this one, it was pretty fun for me too, because it's funny, like we talk around trombone a lot, but we don't always talk about trombone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but thanks to everybody for watching this and catching today's session. We're going to have some additional sessions through the end of the year featuring Q series C trumpets. I think that's next. Q series bass trombones, the Q Alessi model that'll be coming up in November, and then also Q series euphoniums. We might have the new Q piccolo trumpet out before the end of the year, and then we'll do a session on that too. So we'll keep more content coming to everybody, but thanks so much for tuning in. And thanks to Dr. Van Hoff for being such a wonderful colleague and presenter today. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. I appreciate it. Thanks for these outstanding instruments. And I
Yeah.
would be remiss if I didn't say, from all of us Shires people, to thank you all in the company for the incredible service and support that we all get as
Oh, thanks.
teachers and artists and students who play these horns. That's one of the best things about Shires Instruments, is the people that's behind them. So thank you, all of you, the craftsmen and staff people and everything, for everything you all do.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right. Well, we'll see you guys later in Facebook land, and have a safe rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. All right.
Adios.
Bye bye.